10 years ago, prior to the deck box.
Prior to the deck box. All right.
And also, like, who are you?
Oh, sure.
Welcome to the podcast. You know?
So I'm Josh Pyle-Carter. If you're from Halifax, you've probably seen me around. I have been doing the deck box. Will be 10 years in August. We started on Quinpool, which is another part of town, and we're on Brunswick Street now in a bigger spot. We started here 10 years ago. We started very small and just kind of built it out. When we moved here, our focus was on doing Magic was kind of our big one, because when we first looked at the market, there were a number of other shops in Halifax, but most of them were catering to a little more comic books, a little more casual Magic in terms of they were doing sort of the traditional old school store model of we have a store, we sell packs, we've got a couple of cards here and there, we've got miniatures and comics and a mix of stuff. But what we came in and wanted to focus on was having a really specific focus on having Magic singles and availability, because for me, I had sort of a formative experience of when I was playing Magic. Of when I went to a store, I saw a deck online and was super excited, and I just needed a couple of commons and uncommons to build on my deck for standard. And the store that I went to basically said, I was like, hey, I just need these guys. They should be my whole list of cards should be maybe $10, Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, we don't do singles, but we have packs, so just crack packs to find it.
Great advice.
which is a very, for context, I've been playing for 20 plus years. So this is a very old store that doesn't exist anymore. It's, that was the mentality of, that you just you open packs to get what you needed. Maybe you traded with some other people, but you kind of worked with what you had. Mm. And when we did singles here, what we wanted to do was we wanted to have it so that if you walked in and were excited about something, if you were excited about, a deck or a strategy, that we could help you out with that. Because with Magic, it's interesting in that, if you go into other product categories, if I have a $20 item and a $100 item and a $5 item, some of those things are interchangeable. So if you just want to have something to eat, there's a list of options you can pick from. In Magic, if you need this common because it does a very specific thing, it doesn't matter if I have a $20 card or an infinite number of other 50-cent commons you could have. You need it for this specific effect. And if I don't have it, your deck doesn't work the way you want it to. So being able to facilitate play in the way that people want to play their game relies on having the individual cards to make that happen. So we've got a really deeply stocked selection of singles. I have obscure commons from awful sets that no one will probably ever want, but we have them in case someone does want them, because we don't want to prejudge that someone might ever one day want this card. Do you need a mountain goat in your life? A 1-mana 1/1 mountain walking goat from Ice Age? No, you don't. But
maybe the person who's I'm building a goat deck, I really need those tribal goat,
and it's the key thing they want. We want to have it for you in case you want it. And that's part of that sort of customer service availability thing. And so when we opened in Halifax, the goal was to sort of have everything we could possibly have, because it facilitated play, it facilitated people being engaged, mm-hmm. And you didn't have the thing I hate the most is when someone comes in looking for something and we don't have it. Because I want to make sure that if they came to me looking for something, that they left with what they were looking for. So when we first opened in Halifax, there was 4 other stores at the time, and when we were the new store, and so people would come to us after they'd hit everywhere else, and they'd come with their shopping list and go, okay, cool. They'd have 30 cards on a list and go, and it was clear they had 1 or 2 that didn't crossed out, and it was very clear that they'd been to the other stores beforehand, mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, cool. I have this list of stuff. I'll take what you have on it, just whatever you got for it, just fill what you can. Yeah. And we go, well, we have all that. And they go, oh, I wasn't planning to buy all of that today because I didn't expect you to be able to fulfill it all. So I actually need to cut some of my wants list because, I was planning to spend $20 on the stuff that you had, but you had the whole list, which was $100. I got to figure that out now. Yeah. And one of the things we've noticed over the last couple of years is that, we get fewer of those sort of interactions where it's more of okay, cool. I know you have all of it. And if you're missing 1 or 2, that's the expectation. Okay, yeah, you had, this commander list, 100 cards from scratch. You had 97 of them and the 3 you didn't have. I'm not surprised because it spiked up last night, so stuff like that. So for us, it's always been about building, that availability and using that to help build community, because if someone comes and engages in the way they want to engage, they're more likely to want to come back and want to be, included.
For sure. Yeah. And community building is like a massive component. Obviously, like it's baked into everything that happens here.
Yeah.
Right. I can tell from the conversation that we've been having prior to hitting the record button.
Yeah.
Going even further back,
Sure.
Why do this at all? Why get into the game business when not just continue playing as a Magic player?
So for me, I got into this. We've had the deck box for about 10 years, and the deck box was actually an expansion of a store that I had in Summerside, and I started that store after I had moved to Summerside and PI for work. And the contract position I was on had ended, and there was a opportunity to sort of start our own space, and we'd had sort of like the local bookstore kind of reach out to us and say, well, we had some Magic inventory and stuff, we were thinking about getting out of it. Do you want to take it over? And my partner and I, Rachel, talked about it, and we decided that it was something that there was never another time to sort of try it. We were both fresh out of university. We've been out of university for about a year. We had student debt. We didn't have anything else on the go, and we felt like this was something that I felt that we could be good at. And just she really encouraged me to take the plunge on it and basically say, if this is something you're interested in, I believe in you and I want you to pursue it. And we made the choice to sort of do that, and we did. Game On was our first store. We did that for 5 years, and in year 3.5, 4, I think, we opened the deck box, which is a sort of our second location, because we'd sort of been doing a lot of good community building work in Summerside, and that had gone really well, and we sort of figured out kind of our model of what we wanted to do. And we had gone to Halcon, which is like the local sci-fi convention, in our second year, I think, and on a recommendation of one of our clients, and we'd gone there, not knowing quite what to expect. So we kind of just brought all of our store's inventory at the time, sort of to see what worked. And there's a huge demand for individual cards. So we showed up, we did in Halcon on a weekend what we had done in a whole month in Summerside, and sort of said, well, there's, and the thing we kept getting from me was like, well, will you ship us stuff? And I really don't like the online side of it. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But we realized there was a lot of demand, and we realized that the real difference between running a game store in Summerside and running a game store in Halifax was the scope of the market and the size of the competition. And we looked at it and said, well, we think there's room from what we've seen at Halcon, what we've seen at events is that, I think there's room for a store that says, singles and cards are important to building community and play experiences, and to building on that. So we opened up our second location, which is the deck box, in would have been 2014, and that was sort of our first expansion. For context, you asked how I started, and I didn't quite answer. We started our Summerside store with $2,000 from my last job, and just kind of built it into now. We've never taken on loans, outside debt. We have no partners. It's just me and my wife, Rachel. And it's, one of the benefits of starting it very lean for us was that, we were able to really understand where our money was being spent on and what was selling and what wasn't, because it was something where we couldn't justify sort of doing big swing spends on inventory items that just didn't move. It was like, cool, I'm bringing in this product, every product I know, because every product I need to sell. I need to know what client's going to buy it, what's going to be, that really granular knowledge that only kind of comes from when you're going, this is what you have to play with. And then once it's gone, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where we've been built out to today. So, we're now in a much bigger space in a much bigger market, but it's all kind of, the same sort of plan of, know what you're selling, know how to build community, know how to add value for your clients, and sort of making, making a good community and experience for them to kind of just be around, and the rest kind of handles itself.
I'm sure a lot of people are probably listening to that and be like, wow, okay, $2,000, right? That's what you started with.
I know it sounds like a bullshit number. I understand that, but we started with that, and when we relocated out here, I think when we did the expansion here for our first location, as some of our clients will know because they helped. We laid our own floor. We built our own tables. For the first go at it, one of the tables we built was very tall because we didn't measure properly. So we had that one at the window for a while because I couldn't afford to replace it. So because we had paid for the wood and we were going to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of it is we sourced all of our cabinetry from closeout sales. Like it was very much hand built and we figured out the biggest benefit that we did was that there was a store in Summerside that we picked up our case that you see next door, was like a 80-year-old jewelry store that had gone out of business. So these like solid wood cases, but they're jewelry cases, which if any sort of retailers are out there, I would really recommend these if you can find them, because traditionally what I will see is people who have the glass cases where it's just like a glass shelf and cards on the shelf. That looks like it's displaying a lot of cards, but the challenge with that is that it kills so much storage of what you could possibly use. So like if you're looking at it, most of the top level of what you're seeing on display case is all someone sees. Sometimes people will squat down to sort of like look at some more cards a little down further, but if they're on your bottom shelf, no one's really seeing that.
It's kind of like merchandising at the eye line.
Yeah,
like that's the stuff that moves.
That's the stuff that
stuff on the bottom shelf is not going very fast.
And if it's going to not move for you, with our cabinetry, we have all that stuff below just becomes storage space. So for that cabinet setup that we have in store, you'll see sort of you can fit, I think it's 120 cards in sort of like the layout in the top loader the way we have it. But we can store. There's 8 drawers in a display, and each drawer holds around 5,000 cards or more. So you're talking about 40,000 cards worth of storage in just one display cabinet, versus 100-ish, 200-ish cards on some glass shelves that may or may not move. It just gives you more room to sort of do for other stuff.
Kind of maximize your floor space, right?
Yes, very much. I'm good at that part. Yeah, the benefits of having rented spaces where I was like, cool, I can afford this much square footage and no more, and I need to have all this stuff, and where's it going to fit?
Make use of every inch.
Yeah. We've got some old photos of our old store, and when we moved to the new location, one of the best benefits was we had not carried a whole lot of peripheral stuff, mainly because I have very little slab wall, and the only place I could kind of put it in our old location was sort of between so we had sort of a long and narrow space, and so the counters where we had sort of your cards were here, and the slat wall was on this side, and people had to walk through it. So I couldn't put too much or too many hooks because people just knock them as they go by and stab themselves. So when we moved to this location, be able to just kind of carry a lot of stuff on the wall was a very big deal for us, because before I had this much space, kind of a ring of counters, a little bit of slat wall, and then just a little tiny IKEA size bookshelf of D&D books that I could stock or boxes. So it meant that when we had product in, it was majority of it had to be behind the counter, just because I had nowhere else to put it, and I could just stack it up.
No, I'm curious about the early days too.
Sure.
I think exploring that is really interesting, because so many store owners have had wildly divergent experiences, right? And right now the general advice is don't open a store unless you've got $200,000 or whatever that you want to throw at it, and make sure you've got it fully capitalized and you got everything taken care of.
And I would say that that's probably pretty clse to true. And
it's good advice, right? It's not bad.
It's not a bad advice. I would say that there's I think it's Gary Ray, the middle class income on
friendly local game store. Path to a middle class income.
Love his book. It's great. I read it a couple of times, and in my defense, I read it after I started my own store, which was probably not the right order. But he has a section where in the beginning where he talks about that there are guys with a folding table and a dream, and that they have really great stories, but to not follow their advice. And I'm that guy. The advice part of it is, I will say that for me, it's a big believer in building community and building your clientele along with it, and understanding what it is your client wants and how to give it to them in a way that best works for both of you. Whereas my tale and mine and Rachel's tale is not a thing I would recommend to most people, because when we started, part of why we started it was that we had been, I had my contract had finished. I was looking for other work, and when I looked at taking, I looked for a bit, hadn't found anything that really kind of worked, because it could be a tough place to find a job.
Sure.
Shock.
Especially 10 years ago.
Yeah. And when I was looking around, this came up, and one of the things we found is that we had, I'd done the usual thing of apply for EI, which if you're not from Canada is basically employment insurance. It helps you find another job or gives you money until you find another job. And I was told there was, when we got approached for, opening a store, I was told that there was a EI version of EI that you could take while you were a small business to promote it, to basically build your business and still take EI while you were doing it. So they would pay for you to take EI and extended EI while you're doing your business plan, while you're doing your first kind of like setup and prep. And we heard that and we thought, okay, well, this makes sense to me. This is, if I was going to if I could draw up to my EI anyway, and then they would just top me up to sort of, a little more, great. So we did that, put all the plans in motion to get started, started, things were going well. And then 30 days, 60 days after we had opened, they called us and said, hey, so we messed up and you don't in fact qualify for this.
Nice.
Yeah, and in addition to that, you don't qualify, the EI that you've generated because you were working as a self-employed person on your own project, we want that back.
Want that back now.
So for us, we had started with $2,000, and we had started with sort of a plan that I'd be able to draw most of my income that I'd been making at my previous sort of corporate job. And that didn't happen. So it made it so that, we couldn't, we could probably have walked away and just, but, we decided that we could make it work, and it just meant that we had to be profitable from day one. So it's something where it's a very rare thing in our field, but, we haven't had a year where we haven't at least broken even, for it, if not, plus a little bit. And that's gotten trickier over the years because our expenses have gone up, but,
Sure.
It's always sort of been able to pay for me and Rachel to kind of have, a life together and, be able to be pretty comfortable. But no, it's been a lot of stress and pressure at the beginning, and it's kind of worked down the end. But yeah, I would not recommend my route for it.
Yeah.
But I would say it's something where, I would say that definitely being capitalized helps a lot. I don't know if I could see a path to getting where we are now from the get-go that didn't involve 10 plus years of sort of, just grinding to figure it out, whereas, I don't know if I had come in even with, $100,000 today to start the business that we have now, if that would be anywhere near enough to build out where I'd want to be. Because I think part of that process is, to getting to the level of sort of some of the established stores that you'll see is, building relationships. So we have clients that come in every week, or we have clients that come in every couple of years. It is not an uncommon thing for us to have someone who comes in and says, hey, I haven't been since you were on your Quinpool location 4 years ago. I just got back into town. I was out, somewhere else. I was doing something else, or I had kids, they take a lot of time, go figure. Whereas but it's something where if you don't have the years of build up to build that relationship, that's a client that, once you sort of establish a good, relationship and they like you and they want to support you, they'll come back. It's part of why being customer service focused and sort of doing curating your community is such a big part of this. Is that, this is switching to a little more of a corporate business side of it, but when they talk about
that stuff's important too.
When they talk about in basic business school, they talk about your customer lifetime value. If you are someone who drinks Coke and they can get you to be just a Coke guy, starting in your teens, all the way till you're not, the
90 still chugging a Coke.
Yeah, I mean, probably at that point you just keep chugging. This what's it gonna do?
Yeah.
At that, the value of you as a client, that individual Coke purchase may not be a huge number, but that purchase over time has a huge value attached to it. And you're talking about in the gaming space of, if I have a client, and they spend $100 a month with me, which would be, not unusual, not a super big spender, but not a small one either. But
it's their leisure money.
Their leisure money.
The money that they would go to the theater or go out to eat.
Yeah,
some of that comes to you.
Yeah, if you break that out, you assume it's $1,000, on the run of a year. Not accounting for birthdays and Christmases and bonuses where people kind of go a little heavier. That's a lot of value that one client represents for you. And if you're saying, okay, well, I need to make $100,000 in the run of a year in terms of revenue to make, my expenses make sense, or maybe I need more, that one client, is $1,000. If I keep them happy over the run of a year, I need 100 of those guys to make a store kind of sustain itself, on a bare minimum level. So when you think about that in aggregate, that's not a huge number, but every time you can sort of keep that person in your ecosystem, keep them happy, keep them feeling engaged in what they're doing, making sure that they're, just like you said, the movie, they came, they had a good time, they went home happy. Great. They're going to come back the next one.
Yep.
You make a shitty movie, they didn't have a great time. They may come back, or they may come back with reservations, and you need to sort of, make them realize that last movie was shitty, but like this movie is better. And I misunderstood your taste, and I'd like to prove to you that, I get you better now, and this is what you want. Or maybe I give you something that you're not quite expecting, but is a beneficial thing. But it's something like the value of a client and building that community is something that only comes with time. It's someone showing up every week, every couple of months, and that they get the same experience they go every time. It's part of, why, I don't think you could get to a store at this level without that sort of build out time for it, because you need time to build relationships. You need time to build, people up to sort of say, okay, well, I had a really good experience, and every time I go here, I'll come back. And if people like you, they'll tell somebody else about you. I am notoriously bad at spending on marketing. The line item, the percentage that I'm supposed to spend on that in most years, I just have not. It just usually goes to other stuff, but it's something where a big part of, what we're doing now and sort of our 10th year is focusing on, being a little more verbal about, cool, we're a really neat place. And if you're within our ecosystem, you 100% know us. And if you're a little outside of that, you may never have heard of us, because we are a destination location. People are coming here because they want a thing, and we have it. And that's, sort of the draw. So now we're doing kind of more outreach stuff like this, where we just kind of want to like talk about what we do a little more.
Yeah. No, I love the fact that you refer to them as clients. You said that like multiple times, whereas most retail stores consider them customers, right? Which is a little more transactional. I like the idea of client, because that is more of a long-term relationship with somebody.
Oh, 100%. It's something where, it's like the term client is a tough one for me, because it's the closest option that I have when I talk about it that doesn't come across as overly familiar. Like, I know some store owners who would consider their clients as friends, and I have a lot of clients that I really, really like, but, it's something where, a friend to me is a really personal interaction. A friend is someone you call when you got in an accident and you need someone to come pick you up.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. I would love to be, but I'm not. And I'd say with like the client side of it, in my mind, treating it like it's a customer is the equivalent of sort of saying, well, to me, you're just an interaction. To me, you're just, profit going back and forth. And I don't see it that way. For me, a client is someone that I've got a relationship with, that we've built over time. That there's an element of trust there. There's an element of reciprocity. A customer is someone that they say, hey, can you spot me $5? You probably go, no. But a client will say, yeah, man, you're a little short, I'll cover you. That's not a big deal. Like, you're off by like, a couple bucks on this trade-in. Don't worry about it. It's fine, because that's an element of reciprocity, right? You build that relationship, you build an experience, and it's something where it's genuine. It's something that, if I'm not a huge fan of you, you'll definitely be a customer, but almost everyone's a client, because we don't have a lot of customers. We have a ton of clients though.
Yeah. But no, that's good. I think one of the other store owners back in Kitchener, actually, named Tommy Gofton. He was a guy who owns a place called the Round Table, and he's got all kinds of crazy stuff. But he was on the summit that I did years ago, and the way that he always referred to his relationship with his clients, customers, whatever, he called them patrons. Yeah. And I like that way of thinking about it. It was like this idea of having this relationship with people in your store.
I do like
and
that one.
It's a game store specific. It fits the theme, right?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely has those medieval vibes that you want to go for. And if he's go on himself the Round Table, I get it.
He's definitely got the medieval stuff going on. He's another store with like an awesome aesthetic, like fantastic. He was I believe he was a set designer, or he had like experience with the movie industry. So the place was done up in a way that's like hard to replicate. So he had a really interesting, specific, unique to him way of doing things. But the whole patron concept of like thinking about your customers, thinking about the people who interact with your business and your store, I think that's the right way to think about it. I think it's a really good way to think about it, because
because it's not.
This isn't just a retail store.
No, and it's something where if you are retail focused and if you are retail fixated, there's even if you don't like the idea of customers or having relationships with you, the reality of it is, if you are strictly dollars and cents motivated, you want someone to have a relationship with you. Because if you're setting up your system in such a way that someone likes you and wants to come back, you are in a better position, if you treat them well, and to understand their needs and be, attentive, you're going to be in a better position to be more profitable longer on, right? Because the kind of clients that you attract with that sort of behavior is not the kind of guy who's shopping the lowest possible value. If the guy who wants you just because you are the cheapest, that's a customer, and that's a customer you need to decide if you want to cater to or not, or if it's something where that you think that the element of trying to keep up with that is not worth what you're getting out of it. But if you are generating clients, if you're generating people that you have a relationship with, there's a give and a take, there's a back and forth to it, that's something where those people will provide you more value long term, because they're not shopping you all the time for the lowest deal. Like the guy who's coming in and being a customer, he just wants your cards because they're like 10% under what market value for them should be, and wants to buy all of them, and then just but he's not buying the other stuff from you. He's target shopping you because that's his best value. And if that's the kind of customer he is, that's okay. It's something where it's on you as a retailer to decide if that's something you want to cater to, if that's something you want to not deal with, if you want to deter it in some way. But that kind of experience is something where you're very much, it's on you as a retailer to see how you want to handle it. So we are a large store. We have a lot of traffic through. We get about 170 transactions a day in store. So we are busy. There's always going to be some number of people who are looking to do like to come in and shop with us, are shopping for different reasons, and it's the kind of thing where if someone is shopping for the lowest dollar value possible, I generally take that as a approach saying, okay, that's fine. It's something where if someone comes in and says, I want these cards, we have them in our system, we honor our stickered price for it. So if I have it in and it says it's $40, it's $40, conversely, we also work in favor of the client of, if something's mispriced in our system, and I'm around, you can say, hey man, you have this at 40, I'm seeing metrics online that tell me it's like 30. Was this an intentional pricing choice because I think it's worth 40, and it's worth 40 in my local market? Or is it you just didn't miss a decrease and we'll honor the decreased price, and that's something where that's a relationship that you have with clients and not a relationship that I would have with customers.
Yeah, it's $40 for you, man.
Yeah, it's $40 for you. It's one of those ones where it's there is it's the difference between a client and a customer, right? A customer is someone that you're looking at, how do I get maximal profit out of it? And a client is someone that you have a relationship with. It's someone that you have a back and forth and an understanding that, it is a more than a transactional relationship. You give me money for stuff, I provide a service in response, and that service is anywhere from just having the thing that you want reliably and efficiently. So, you can walk in and walk out with your purchases if you want in under 5 minutes. So if you come to me with a list and go, I want this stuff, awesome, neat, check all the boxes, looks good to you, you're in and out the door. Our holiday time is really great for this because we get a lot of sort of friends and family who come in with a list going, I need these 7 things. I have no idea what this is. Yeah. Can you tell me what I need? And it's like, yep, this is what you need. This is what it'll cost. It's like, awesome, in and out. It's one of those things where that's sort of it. I really like the person-to-person interaction and the back and forth. And so that time of year is a little rough for me because I'm like, oh man, I want to talk to you about the cool things you're buying. You're like, let me tell you why, the new Warning models are super cool. You're getting some really awesome stuff. Do you want to tell me what you do with it? But that's something where, that's a client experience, and that's some people will find a value to that of being able to come in and talk about the thing they're excited about. No one comes into our store not excited about something, whether they're excited to be there, excited for the thing they're going to get, excited with what they're going to do with the thing they're going to get, or you're just excited to kind of look at stuff and window shop of things that they might like to get in the future. It's something where, being responsive to that excitement in an authentic way is really important because, so many people have had people tell them that their hobbies are silly or why are you excited about this? And to have someone who goes like, hey man, I see you're buying a box of Space Wolves. I've played against the Wolf and stuff. They're really cool. Have you heard of the strat that goes with them? I was like, oh no, I didn't know I could spend a CP to give them 6 as dev wounds. It's that's cool, right? And that's something where it's an authentic, experience on our end is part of how we hire our staff the way we do. And it's something where the value add for that client is that they get to be seen as this thing I'm doing is cool. It may not be cooler in the grand scheme of is anyone going to write, articles about how I'm awesome because I play Space Wolves? No one's going to do that. Yep. But someone saw you and said, hey, that's cool. Have you thought about this other cool thing that you can do with it? Mm-hmm. Or, like, how are you going to use this? Like, the stuff that it actually engages. And the only way that you get that kind of connection is if you're authentically interested in what someone is doing, because you're part of the community and part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I haven't played a whole bunch of games of Warhammer, I wouldn't know what that unit does. I just know it's a box of plastic Space Marines, and they look like all the other boxes of plastic Space Marines, except this one is different, and why he wants this one versus the other box next to it, and knowing the difference is a big part of the value that you add to your clients, where it's something you go. One of the things I like about my job a lot is I pull a lot of Magic card lists, and I've played for a very long time. And because I have played for a very long time, I know what these cards do. So when someone pulls a list and goes, cool, I'd like a Winter Orb, I'd like a Stasis, I'd like this, and this, and this, I'm like, okay, cool.
You're out to ruin everyone's fun.
So just as a heads up, just so we're clear here, you want to have no friends. Like, just like it's like when someone shows up and like buy something, like, hey, just so you know, this is what this is typically used for. Are you cool with that? Like, oh yeah, no, I want to be an asshole. Like, It's like I want to have 0 friends by the end of this game. It's like, okay, that's cool. I just wanted to check, right? Like, it's like, it's something where like that level of feedback and acknowledgement of like, cool, it's like walking the store and going, cool, I would like a can of gasoline and some rags. It's like, neat. Yeah, like that's what that's gonna be used for, right? Like, yeah,
fully aware.
Fully aware. I'm good. It's like, all right, cool. Just doing my due diligence and asking you. It's like, so I want to burn down my playgroup. But yeah,
but being able to nerd out with somebody and connect with them on something that, like, it's a hobby, right? It's this shared passion that defines us as nerds for the most part. That's a big value for people coming into the store.
Oh yeah, it's part of why people want to come back, right? That they feel that they were. It's like when you're running a gaming store, you are in a weird position of you are running a retail operation which pays for your community experience. And if you can't balance both those things, if you can't kind of make both of them work, you're going to run into trouble, because you can have the best game and community experience in the world, but if you can't get the numbers to work to fund that, it doesn't matter, because that community will inevitably evaporate when you go under, right? Like, if you can't pay your bills, if you can't do the things you need to do, you will not be around for your community long term. And conversely, if you're nothing but a retailer where it's all customers and no clients, it's something where you're going to run this sort of like hollow experience where it's like, cool, I may as well go to Walmart. I may as well go buy if Walmart had singles, I would go shop there. Because it's that kind of retail experience, and finding the balance between sort of making it all work and also building that sort of really active and passionate community is a challenge, but it's definitely something that if you're skilled at it, can definitely do really well. It's something where the community part of it is a big element of what makes it all tick, and having that authentic interest is a big part of that. It's like